Hello Anon. I'm the OP from some of the earlier threads. The fact is that today, a little more than 15 years have passed since the events of the story that I want to tell, and therefore they no longer constitute information containing a state secret. Despite this, the names and surnames of current employees have been changed. The military unit number is not given. The city where the event took place has been replaced by the city of Kilmovsk in the Moscow region. The mentioned military town of Kilmovsk 19 does not exist and did not exist previously. According to the text, the action takes place in a military town belonging to the Federal Agency for Government Communications and Information, essentially a specialized intelligence division under the President of Russia, but in reality, it belonged to another paramilitary structure under the jurisdiction of the President. So, I will have a drink and we will continue. This story happened in the summer of 1997. I, a 23-year-old lieutenant who had just graduated from the academy, was serving as a junior detective in one of the investigative units specializing in surveillance and intelligence gathering of the Directorate for Moscow and the region. I was young, cheerful and strong, dating a girl and planning a wedding. I had never suffered from nightmares before. I'm telling you all of this so that I can be properly introduced to you and so that you have sufficient backstory. I was a strangler of rights and freedoms in the prime of life. I had a rank in boxing. I was a member of the shooting team of the Directorate. I woke up early in the morning, before the alarm went off, at about 5 a.m. It was a stuffy July Tuesday. I was alone in my parents' apartment, where I lived, and they were on a long business trip abroad. The salary of a junior operative back then was about 5,000 rubles, so I clearly could not film. This is just a memory. I woke up not exactly in a cold sweat, but I was sweating quite a bit. My hand instinctively reached for the holster with the weapon lying at the head of the bed. Having felt the familiar metal of Makarov's design, I calmed down a little and tried to analyze my dream. So, I dreamed that I was walking through a train station. It was a train station, but it was more like a waiting room, most similar to the Yaroslav train station, but it had outdated furniture, wooden benches, and propaganda on the walls from Soviet times. I walked purposefully in the direction of the access roads. I felt that I was on duty, as if I was on duty during another large-scale search operation. In the dream too, it was a bright sunny day. Sorry, I have a new laptop and it's unusual to type, so I often split the text. I was walking along a deserted platform. There were no trains, no people. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a Romani person. Typical. There are fewer of them now, but back then, there were lots of them. When I was 3 steps away from her, she turned to me and clearly said, in a dream I remind you, "Well, Lieutenant, will they kill you in this Kilmovsk? Don't you feel sick yourself?" She said the last words in a scream, a loud scream almost in my face. At that point I woke up. Having finished analyzing this bullshit, I really felt a little sick. What the hell? Kilmovsk? I've never been there, and God willing, I won't be there for another 100 years. In the morning, upon arrival at work as always, a morning meeting with the head of service awaited. He was a real, venerable bastard, famous for words like, "I fucked him in his coffin," and "like shit on his eye." From his speeches, I learned that I was about to be sent on a mission as part of a group to one of the military towns of the Ministry of Defense, where a top category secret bearer, a serviceman, went on a self-propelled mission. Having gone up to the HR department, I signed for the travel certificate. Having left the HR office and having carefully read it while waiting for the elevator, I felt that the ground of the house, number 20, on the FSB headquarters at Lubyanka, slipping a little from under my feet. In the column assigned where, in the clumsy handwriting of the personnel officer, was written, Moscow region, urban settlement, Kilmovsk 19. The dream immediately came to mind. However, in my youth I did not really bother about that. Well, a dream. It's just a coincidence, so what the hell. And anyway, this Romani woman was really lucky that I did not go all out with her, so to speak, and telling her to fuck off and leave me alone. We arrived in the urban settlement, Kilmovsk 19. Quite an interesting military town. A perimeter with 3 security systems, towers at the corners, reinforced patrols, a loosened control track strip, soft dirt strip to track footsteps. The town itself consists of 2 conscript barracks, 3 officers' dormitories, a number of outbuildings, and 2 strange structures, like 2-story buildings, but the windows are all blind, bricked up. Moreover, I noticed it was in them that the personnel went after the morning roll call, almost all of them. Where they would have fit in there, who the hell knows? Everything suggested that this was just a roof for an underground structure. Fortunately, I saw such office ones in Moscow when I did my internship at the academy. An inspection of the scene of the incident revealed the following. Around 6:20 p.m. Moscow time, Lieutenant Colonel Ivanov of Military Unit Redacted, a senior engineer with the Federal Agency of Government Communications and Information under the President of Russia, departed the base with the unit commander's permission. Ivanov, a Russian native of Smolensk, serving since 1989, headed to a nearby village for personal reasons. Upon departure, I left a note in the checkpoint duty officer's log. Then something interesting began. Right behind the checkpoint booth, a loosened control track strip began. This is a piece of soil that is loosened so that clear tracks remain on it. An inspection of the strip, 500 meters wide, revealed that the tracks from his shoes were marked up to 120 meters, after which they were lost. Wow, imagine that a person was walking, and then he was somehow snatched away by a helicopter. By helicopter, in the Moscow region, in the area of a restricted area. Internal troops from nearby were used as additional forces. After inspecting the strip, the Spetsnaz dog handler rushed after his dog into the thicket of the forest surrounding this town, barely keeping up with him. Cursing their lack of breath because of too many cigarettes, the operatives rushed off. Finally, on one of the edges of the forest, the service dog stopped. Here, the service dog handler, a senior contract sergeant, joyfully yelled. The operatives were skeptical, casting doubtful glances, but the handler was already feeding his giant dog sugar, coaxing it for good behavior. What is this? It's just a forest, I thought, scanning the ground, until my boot landed on something metal. What junk is scattered here, I thought, bending down. But then professionalism took over. Ivanov, get the witnesses here. Vyodstev, camera out. Time, 12:07, Moscow time. In the dirt lay a Makarov pistol, slide locked back, serial number redacted, manufactured in 19, magazine inside, empty. Damn, where are the bullets? Senior, do you see that tree? Vyodstev nudged my shoulder. What tree, Ivanov? I muttered, distracted by the protocol. That tree. Look closer. It's staring back at you. I looked where he pointed and saw it. The tree bark had been stripped, sap bleeding out. Upon closer inspection of the linden trunk, I counted 8 bullets, neatly embedded in less than a meter's width. 6 bullets, like Sarajevo, I muttered. What's that? Vyodstev, surprised, asked. It's nothing, Vanya. You need to read the classics, I said, brushing it off. Sergey, connect me with HQ. 393, this is Centurion, go ahead. Centurion, please confirm the serial number on the weapon of the missing officer. We'd found the missing service pistol alright, though this was back when they were issued to personnel on leave, and we'd sometimes stumble on them, left in odd places. But here, Ivanov had disappeared in the middle of the track line, and his pistol was half a kilometer away from the forest, nearly emptied into a tree. Then began the usual process. To sweep the entire forest would take every unit we have, the elite security forces, along with everyone from cooks to more guards, but we knew we would not get that. From our house on the hill, what we called our headquarters in Lubyanka, we received orders to conduct the search with our own resources. The conscript soldiers fanned out into the forest, while we operatives hit the surrounding villages and towns, asking locals if they had seen anything unusual. And have you seen anything, Vasily Petrovich? Well, sons, I saw my neighbor Grishka printing leaflets against Yeltsin. You should really have a word with him. Regardless, within a week, we had established an agent network throughout the villages. People were eager to talk, which was a plus. However, the stories they shared were often absurd, which was a minus. Yet we had to sift through all the nonsense to find any leads. Then, 9 days later, we received a tip from a source, codenamed Church, in Trotskoy at house number redacted on Kotovsky Street. A military man had been living there for a week, always in camouflage. To investigate, me and 2 other guys from my squad set out in a Volga. As the driver cursed and Vyodstev begged to stop and take a photo of some idiot, we reached the address. The house, along with the fence, was dilapidated, more of a hovel with a couple of rundown sheds than anything else. Without exiting the car, I spotted movement in the yard and shouted from the front seat, "Master, police, come out before we talk." What crawled out under the guise of the homeowner was hardly human. A scruffy figure in a knitted suit, clutching a 2-stool. Then a furious roar erupted, likely from some hidden depths of this mysterious military unit. "Oh, you fucking pigs, filthy cops, I won't give you the gun." The guy then pulled a bizarre maneuver, diving behind a large boulder on the property. A bit hungover, I had not immediately noticed the weapon he was reaching for. "Seryoga, gun, let's get to work," Vyodstev shouted, snapping me out of my daze. "Listen up, we're the FSB, gun on the ground, come here." It wasn't for nothing I had honed my command voice at the academy. Leaning out the car window, I continued, "If you keep screwing around, we won't take you in easily. Hands up and slowly come out." I almost swallowed the words "come out" as the sight of the crumbling windshield registered in my brain. Then, recalling what they taught us in our 3rd year, I yanked the door open while rolling out, landing behind a stack of firewood to establish a firing sector. "Vyodstev, take position 30 on the right," I instructed. Lying on the roofing felt atop the stack, I fired 5 rounds into the base of the boulder where the suspect was hiding. He responded with a single shot, but the bullet flew so close I felt its passage at heart level. Luckily, it lodged itself in the firewood. "I'll kill you, you bastard," I shouted in frustration. "Team 5, establish a right side perimeter. Team 9, provide cover overhead," I ordered, issuing commands to imaginary units to maybe rattle the guy and make him scared. A sudden burst of machine gun fire shattered the silence, nearly grazing my ear. "Boris, damn it," I thought, as I realized my driver had taken cover behind the Volga's door. Armed with his AKSU, he was laying down short bursts of fire at the stone. "Yeah, they must be teaching him some wild tactics back at base," I mused to myself. "Boris, cover me," I called out, inching a couple of meters closer. "Hey, idiot, I'm going to throw a grenade." Of course, I was bluffing. The last time I had thrown a grenade was during training at the Rattan Special Military School. I tossed a cobblestone toward the shooter and sprinted across the open ground in 2 quick hops. No shots came my way, and as I vaulted over the rock, I swung the PM handle down on the back of the hunting enthusiast's head. What unfolded next? The hunter ended up with handcuffs on his wrist. As I stepped inside the house, a drunken fool in camouflage lunged at me. I executed a throw I had learned in training, sending him crashing to the floor. With my gun aimed squarely at his face, I demanded, "Where is the soldier?" He pointed to the stove, and from its shelf, we dragged our missing item out of the cellar. He was in a state of complete stupor. Not exactly drunk, but definitely not sober either. As a notorious drunkard myself, I could tell the difference. Maybe he was on drugs, but I could not say for sure, especially since the narcotics unit in our office had been disbanded, leaving me with no one to consult. By some miracle, we managed to pull everyone out. Thanks to my gun, Boris's AKSU, and Vyodstev's barely contained panic, we led them all out to the yard. With great satisfaction, I radioed in. "We need to evacuate. We have an important target." They took everyone away. Then came the twist. Upon our arrival at the infirmary, which turned out to be in one of those underground masking facilities, we were required to sign non-disclosure agreements whose terms had long expired. Afterward, we indulged in a drinking bout with a local security officer. After a few rounds, we stepped outside for a smoke. Then Boris, it turned out, was the security officer's driver. "Let's have some fun, Comrade Lieutenant," he suggested. "Why the hell do you want to stir up trouble?" I replied. "Just look," he said, opening the door of the Volga we had arrived in. He pointed to the headrest of the front passenger seat. I did not quite follow at first, but then I noticed a hole in the headrest. Curiosity piqued, I rummaged around and pulled out a bullet, clearly from that hunting rifle. Had we not hit a bump, that marksman would have taken me out, right between the eyes. It left me wondering, why had I dreamt of such a scenario? Since then, I had been shot at more than once, even spending a year on assignment in Chechnya, but the coincidence with Kilmovsk has never left my mind. Be me, 12 years old. Spend the summer with the tribe on the res. Adopted out cause res life was bad when I was born, and I'd have probably died from gang activity by now if they had not sent me away. Uncle is teaching me shit about being a medicine man cause my dad, whose job that would have been, is dead. Literally the first exposure to anything actually native. Goes okay for the most part. Has me help with setting up a lodge for a Sundance. Part of the setup is taking a boatload of burning ash and sage and bless a circle roughly 1 mile in radius from the lodge. Apparently this is new, cause shit's happened the last few years and my uncle got some vision or something that this was the cure to the problem. Uncle up until the lodge focused heavily on proper decorum and prayers for the Sundance, pulls me aside when we are setting up camp. Tells me to never leave camp alone or without sage. Apparently this is common practice, but I'm new, so I figure he's just making sure. Says if anything happens that I can't explain or doesn't seem right, I run as quick as I can back to the lodge, no stopping. Things go fine for the first day, and I'm mostly kept busy by various chores. Uncle is the presiding elder, so he gets to be a firekeeper, singer, and blesser for 3 days straight, no sleeping, cause the other 5 elders are dancers. I'm his assistant, essentially, and protege, so I'm basically allowed some sleep in the morning prior, but that's it. Firekeeping turns out to be Uncle, 5 older guys, a 20-something, another kid roughly my age, and me shooting the shit around the fire, keeping it alive. Fire's not allowed to burn out, or else we have to strike camp. Move at least several miles away, leave a skin offering, and start the 3-day Sundance all over again. Shit's bad, cause that would probably kill the older dancers, so best to keep the fire fed and alive. We've all been drinking coffee to stay fresh, so sometime later at night, nature calls. Me, kid my age, and 20-something go to take a leak. Blessed ground, so we can't desecrate it. Have to walk the mile to the borderline. About 3/4 of the way there, 20-something stops us. You guys seeing that? Not sure how I missed it, but there's 5 lights out in the tall grass, about 3-ish miles off in the prairie. Looks like someone left a lantern out there essentially. Far off and on the neighbor's land, so whatever. Get to the border and just decide to piss over it. Just get started when 20-something starts wildly smacking my back and pointing. Dude, what the fuck? Already edgy cause it was dark, and I still had the mild fear of it back then. Him wildly smacking me makes me panic just enough, I sort of wildly whip my head around. Finally focus to see there's more circles of light than I can count, offhand, swirling around, but absolutely on this side of the road, and about 1.5 miles closer. Takes maybe a second to realize they're getting closer pretty fast. Takes maybe a second for them to reach us. Don't remember anything up until I'm running my ass faster than I ever ran before up to the lodge, and hurriedly bless myself and the other 2 with sage. Uncle is pissed as shit, asking where we've been, and to keep it down, cause we just ran screaming into the camp and waking the dancers. Don't even remember what I said, but it was something along the lines of 2 kids and a grown-ass man gibbering over each other about something in the grass and how it's in the border now. Last bit sets Uncle off. Tells us to stay put and keep the fire lit. He runs off to tell everyone to stay inside their trailers or tents. Comes back maybe 20 minutes later. Says to stay close to the fire and just not worry about it. Maybe 10 minutes later one of the older guys pipes up. Don't panic, but it's above us. Obviously everyone looks up. Don't see it at first. Notice this triangle of black where you can't see the stars or Milky Way. Dancers are getting edgy, asking what the hell it is. Uncle starts joking. Says it's a UFO and shines his fuck huge searchlight on it. Whole place hums and vibrates hard. Okay, I'll just stop then. Turns the damn flashlight off. I'm starting to panic cause at first, I thought it was just fuck huge, but really high up. Flashlight showed it's maybe 10-ish feet higher than the lodge. Rest of the night is pretty much the same. Sky starts to turn blue. Hear the hum but no vibration. At around 3 miles per hour, it starts to drift away over the hill and out of sight. Uncle won't let anyone leave until it's full light out. Earn a good rest that day, so I sleep from sunup until sundown, when I gotta do firekeeping again. Body's killing me, but whatever. Here at the fire the other 2 guys, and half the family's left while I slept. Not sure when, but someone just makes a shushing sound and points up. Damn thing's right the fuck above us again. Does the same shit the second it starts getting light out. Been laying down all night cause I wasn't feeling great. Second I stand up, I fall back down and vomit. Another day of resting and I wake up for fire duty again. Grandma says I got sunburn from the day before, so my back and shoulders are now covered in something that smells like a skunk, and I still feel shitty. Managed to get through fire duty alright, despite the damn thing coming back again, and the camp's electricity going dead, sometime during the night. Back's not even feeling too bad now either, though I still feel sick. Uncle pats me on the back for a job well done. Hurts so bad I black out. Wake up in the hospital. Not sure what. It's a res hospital. They aren't the best, but doc says I was pretty sick with something, and I had been out for 4 days. A good patch of skin on my shoulders, neck, and back had sunburned so bad they had to debride several inches of skin. Vacation ends pretty quickly after that, as I was healthy enough for the transfer back home. Docs back home say it definitely was not sunburn, but just a plain burn, and my blood's platelet count is scarily low. Risk a skin graft on my thigh for the debrided area. Turns out I can add minor flash burns to both my corneas. Heal up relatively well once the new symptom of coughing up blood subsided. Probably due to the platelet counts, the doc said. After a year or so, I remember a bit more. Only really remember up to the lights hitting, then everybody screaming. Distinctly remember the burning and me falling to the ground. Only remember screaming up to the part where I'm just outside the camp sprinting in. Life goes on for a bit with some nightmares. New therapist says it's just some basic PTSD from my fight with illness that I wasn't fully conscious for. Nightmares are just lights, pain, and screaming like I remember. Family decides I should still go back to the res every summer. Second I'm off the plane, Grandma drives 7 hours to Uncle's house. Uncle has a sweat lodge and everything set up waiting. Haven't even mentioned the dreams outside adoptive family, but the second Uncle sees me, he asks how often I've been having dreams. Tell him it's about once a week. Says we gotta hurry then. A whole night of prayers with the elders. Take skin sacrifices off my shoulders and rub sage and ashes into them. Don't really remember much as I was 14, and our tribe burns herbs and sweats. Dreams stop, but every year something weird happens to or around me at the lodge, though nothing crazy like the first time. Found out later that no one saw the lights or heard the screaming, and we were gone for around an hour when it should have been a maybe 10 minutes round trip. Only time people heard us was when we were wildly flailing, trying to get into the lodge. No one else outside the lodge saw the triangle, but then again, they'd basically been quarantined. In the decades since, I've seen the same lights elsewhere, like on the lake or in the woods on camping trips, always with someone else, but nothing ever came of it, and I've never seen the triangle since. Weird shit still happens on my property, but it seems to stay calmish so long as my dogs are on the property. But I've since thought about moving back to the res to try and figure all the shit out, and maybe take my uncle up on actually learning to be a medicine man. TLDR, shit happened that scared me so bad, I'm willing to leave my white bread comfy life to go live on the res and protege as a medicine man. I've gotten a lot from X over the years, so I will share a couple of stories that happened to me. First one is about missing time. I am quite drunk right now, so I may overshare details. Be a teenager at the time, 2008. Death Magnetic by Metallica had just come out. Me and my best friend at the time listening to it on Windows Media Player. We vibe. I live kinda in a woods off of a highway, lots of old trails in my area. Friend asks if I want to go for a walk to show him the trails around my house. We're talking about horror movies and Metallica. Walking in the woods. It is 3 p.m. and he stayed the night. The trail we are walking on leads right to the local hardware store after 10 minutes of walking through the woods. There is one entrance to this trail and one exit. We walk to the end of the trail. It is 3:10 or so. We are now talking about girls, talking about who's hotter in our school. We come back. My parents and his parents are calling for us. The police have been called and are searching for us. We get asked where the fuck we were. We are confused. We have been gone about half an hour. I realize the sun is setting in the sky now. What the fuck? It is after 7 p.m. Neither of us have any clue what happened. We were having the same convo the entire way. The woods around where I live are weird AF. Another one involving same friend. He moved around a bit in the town as his parents rented houses rather than bought one. So, be at his house. We're playing Adventure Quest on Windows XP and listening to Billy Talent. He asks if I want to go explore some woods. We bring our air guns as we were teenagers and it's all that we could get without a permit. We are hiking along when I notice something hung up on the tree branches. Pictures. Lots of pictures. We know all of these people. Why are their photos stuck on tree branches and singed at the edges? It's their school photos. We don't really touch the pictures. Just kind of look at them. All the ones that are singed have had recent injuries, like broken legs or arms. We see our own photos, not touched. We take our photos and leave. Back to his house is 1 kilometer through the woods. Halfway to his house, we begin to realize that we are being followed by someone wearing weird clothing. We never found out for sure who it was, but suspected a couple of people. More people over that summer had severe injuries. One even almost died. We know it was a girl, but no idea who. She stood outside his house for a couple hours with what I assume was supposed to be a voodoo doll of my friend. I shot at her with my airgun, and she never bothered us again. Weird as fuck.